So you want to learn about pallets and dialog boxes. Let's jump right into it. Both of the pallets and dialog boxes are used to define many of the objects in AutoCAD. They're also used to manipulate some of the features that you'll have for some of your objects. So let's take in, for example, the layers palette. Most people just call this the layers properties, but this is a palette. You can manipulate this in several different ways. I don't have many layers in here, so we're only gonna have one layer, but you can kind of adjust these just how you can kind of adjust the columns in Excel. You can also access mini palettes by also just typing in the command for that. So in this case, the layers properties, we would just type in the word layer. It opens the same palette. So there are a lot of options that you have once you're inside of a palette. For this one, you can create new layers, you can freeze layers, you can get rid of layers, you can sort the layers however you want here. For the most part, when I'm using AutoCAD professionally, I have this palette open and I have the properties palette. Both of these are very useful when you're looking at what you want to put your layers on, or check your layers, or change an object to a certain layer, and then also to change the same thing for the properties of an individual object or line. You can figure out what the layer is and what you can do with that. One thing to note about palettes is you can actually move them around either onto a second monitor, which is very useful if you have additional monitors. You can also pin them into the AutoCAD system themselves. So if all you have to do is drag these over, and then you can see how it's taking up the space. You can also collapse these palettes into smaller on the side views. So if I hit this button right here, it will collapse the palette. So now if I hover over this, I don't have to click it, just hover over. It's still giving me the properties of everything. And so if I had another object again, let's say another polyline, I'll select this and it still shows the polyline and everything it would beforehand. But now it's part of this AutoCAD screen. Now, this button that you click to either basically pin or unpin the palette is also called the auto hide. So it's hiding the properties to the side or unhiding it. For the most part, I recommend, if you have a second monitor, to throw it on to the second monitor so you always can see it very easily. But if you don't have a second monitor, it is easy just to tie it to this. And then when you're not using a lot of layers, you can unhide it. So that way you have a bigger workspace. Now, some things you can also do with a palette is you can dock them on the opposite side. So you have a choice on which side you want to dock them. And you can adjust the size of how far you want these to kind of take up your screen by just adjusting them when you kind of hover over the edges of these palettes. If you don't want a palette to show up anymore, you just simply have to just hit the X button to close it. It's kind of a preference of which palettes you want open, and there are a lot of different types of palettes you can find. So the reason why we know these are palettes is because they have this vertical bar here. So this indicates that it is a palette. I don't know why they chose it to be like that, but this is what defines whether it is a palette or not. A dialog box is just going to pop up. You're going to put in some information, and after you're done, you're going to close it and it's going to go away. You don't pin those, you don't hide them to your side, you can't move them around besides getting them out of your view. But once you hit OK or cancel, they're gone. Okay, let's move on to the dialog boxes. These are going to be mostly a one-time use, and they're just going to usually define or change attributes of something. So, for example, what we're going to use for a dialog box would be create a block. To find that, you would go into the Insert tab, and then in the Insert ribbon, you would click the Create Block. Once you do that, it's going to pull up a dialog box. So there's a few things you can do with them. You can change the size if you'd like. Personally, I don't do this. The size was perfectly fine how it was, okay? So when you have your dialog box, you actually have a lot of options. So for this one, you have, you can put a name, you have the base point, you have the objects, behavior, and then the settings. And then you can even add a description. So all of these can be filled out and changed per each block you want to do or each block creation you want to have. So you can fill out, change all these things, and once you hit OK, that will be the end of the dialog box. You can also cancel, and if you're not too sure, you can also hit help. You hit the help button, it will bring up a directory, what all of these things basically do. So for now, we're not going to define a block. We're just going to hit the cancel. So a lot of the dialog boxes are used for, inputs and settings. This lets you basically be able to manipulate commands in AutoCAD. Versus pallets are more about like the functions of AutoCAD rather than the inputs and settings. This about sums up the differences between pallets and dialog boxes and what they are. If there is a specific dialog box or palette you'd like me to go over, please leave that in the comments below, and we can go into more depth in another video. I hope you enjoyed the video, and make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss more of these insanely informational videos that are life-changing, so much so that you feel on top of the world. You start eating better, sleeping better, and just all around grateful. You find yourself randomly throughout the day thinking, boy, I can't wait to tell my loved ones about what I learned in AutoCAD. So thank you for watching the video, and bye for now.